Welcome everyone to Monday Morning Morons for October 14th, 2019. This week, let's begin with the ever-increasing failures of education. Survey finds college graduates struggle with basic civic literacy. 18% of Americans believe AOC authored the New Deal, survey finds. Much as it pains me to do so, I'll give these 18% a pass on this one and assume they just didn't read the question. Given that Cortez has decided to call her new government takeover the Green New Deal in a direct attempt to equate her plan with FDR's, it's not all that surprising that some of these young people would misread the question and confuse the two. That's exactly why she called it that in the first place. A recent national survey shows a lack of basic knowledge of U.S. history and civics among Americans, with a number of respondents not knowing the current Supreme Court Chief Justice or thinking Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez authored the New Deal instead of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Conducted by the American Council of Trustees and Alumni, America's Knowledge Crisis, a survey on civic literacy, found shortfalls in Americans' knowledge of history and how their country operates. Now, here's the thing. On the street, the average Jane or Joe gets questions like this wrong all the time. Hell, I remember Jay Leno used to do a short special on The Tonight Show every now and then to point and laugh at this very thing. Now, of course, it's a comedy show, so he wasn't going to show you the ones who got it right. That's not very funny. And in some cases, you might be asking a bit much for the average Joe to remember, say, the names of all the current Supreme Court justices, for instance. I mean, I pay attention to that shit, and off the top of my head, on the spot like that, I'd probably have to stop and think about it after the first 4 or 5 of them, too. But these are not average Janes and Joes on the street, and these are not tricky questions. These are pretty freaking basic things, and these are supposed to be the educated people. These are the people with the privilege of spending thousands and thousands of dollars of other people's money to avoid working. And these are the same sorts of people right now running around protesting everything American, demanding we tear it all down, and insisting that their way is better, even though their new thing is just the same old Marxism with some shiny new wrapping paper. The survey polled 1,002 people, 61% of whom received or were receiving a college education, on various civics, government, and history questions. Conducted in August with the result released last month, it found that 63% of respondents did not know the term lengths of U.S. senators and representatives. See, this is what I meant. That's not a tricky question. It's pretty fucking basic. Doesn't require any analysis or opinion and has a straight, no bullshit, concrete answer. 2 years for representative, 6 years for senators. That hasn't changed for over 200 years, and yet over half of these people don't know that. Only 12% of college graduates surveyed knew the relationship between the Emancipation Proclamation and the 13th Amendment. Most likely because 88% of the respondents don't know what the 13th Amendment is. And only 15% identified correctly that James Madison is the father of the Constitution. I gotta give them a pass there as well, depending on their answer, because when we talk about the founders, it's usually in a collective sense. As in, James Madison was one of the fathers of the Constitution. Alexander Hamilton and John Jay may also be mentioned as fathers of it, as together with Madison they wrote the series of articles called the Federalist Papers, which outline many of the founding principles later used in the Constitution itself. But other founders also had significant contributions as well. John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, for example, are recognized as influential framers, but they were both on diplomatic missions in Europe at the time of its signing, thus neither of these two actually signed it. In other words, the answer here isn't quite so straightforward as just naming one person. However, generally speaking, yes, James Madison is considered to be the father of the Constitution because of his major contributions to the ideas used and eventual structure of the document itself, in addition to the conception of the Bill of Rights and the amendment process by which the original document can be changed. The survey also found that 18% of respondents identified Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the Democratic freshman representative from New York, as the author of the New Deal. In fact, President Roosevelt launched it in the 1930s. In particular, 12% of the college graduates surveyed selected AOC as its author. We mentioned that already. Being as charitable as I can be, I will assume they were simply confused as to which big government takeover proposal you were referring to. I think we've seen some serious deterioration in general education curriculum, and that's probably the biggest factor. Jonathan, not going to try it, ACTA Director of Academic Affairs, told the College Fix in a telephone interview. The Council is a nonprofit organization that works to advance academic freedom, excellence, and accountability in higher education. I think it would surprise people to learn that only 18% of colleges and universities today require what you may call a foundational course in American politics or government or American history. ACTA's 2019-2020 What Will They Learn report, also released last month, showed that only 18% of colleges and universities include an American history or civics course in their general education requirements. The report assessed 1,123 college and university general education programs each year to see if they include key learning subjects such as literature, composition, and U.S. history or government. And here we finally get to the reason why these supposedly educated people are so fucking ignorant. They no longer have time for basic facts. When they have to squeeze in feminist dance theory, unpacking white privilege, and the wizarding world of Harry fucking Potter. I don't have time to learn how our government works. I've got to get to my anti-fascist Orange Man bad everyone's a Nazi rally. And the real problem here is these are the idiots who will one day be teaching your kids in a 5th grade history class or whatever. In other words, your kids won't learn this basic shit either. What will they learn? University program teaches faculty and staff how they support racism and white supremacy. That's right. Your kids may not have any idea how their government works, but who cares? They'll be able to tell you exactly why every single white person ever born is a racist, xenophobic Nazi who must bow down to the perpetually aggrieved in an effort to demonstrate how aware they are of the racism they perpetuate by simply existing. And that's way more important, don't you think? Boise State University has rolled out a new book circle for faculty and staff focused on white privilege in an attempt to dig deep into ourselves to explore the ways in which we all, as individuals, sometimes unknowingly, support racism and white supremacy, the university's website states. That's right. Come learn about your original sin, being born the wrong color. And of course, that makes you the racist, not us. The book circle is hosted by the Gender Equity Center and the Center for Teaching and Learning and is centered on the book, What Does It Mean to Be White? Developing White Racial Literacy by Robin DiAngelo, a white fragility expert who speaks at college campuses nationwide. DiAngelo. We've addressed this particular racist cunt before. Little miss, I'm a racist, and I don't want to feel so bad about being a remarkably shitty person, so I pretend everyone else is just as shitty as me. While the program is open to folks of all racial identities, the website states, the primary audience of this book is people who are interested in unpacking white identity and how white folks distance themselves from conversations about race, as well as learning how to engage white folks in recognizing their privilege. We will dig deep into ourselves to explore the ways in which we all, as individuals, sometimes unknowingly, support racism and white supremacy, the university's website states. See, that's a quote from her book. We all do this. Think about that. What did she really just say? She just said, she is a racist. The book circle is scheduled to meet weekly for a total of 7 sessions and began September 12th. Participants must purchase their own book and were required to fill out an application to sign up. Driving sales for the racist author. How thoughtful of you, comrades. The College Fix reached out to university spokesman George Thoma, who declined to comment and did not respond to further correspondence. Gee, I can't imagine why. What's next, Bob? Students burned liberal professor's book over criticism of its anti-white themes. This is exactly how you should not respond to these mindlessly race-obsessed drones. Some Georgia Southern University students upset over University of Nebraska-Lincoln professor Janine Capo-Cruset's novel, Make Your Home Among Strangers, which was reportedly required reading in some first-year experience classes at GSU, burned copies of her book after she spoke at the campus Wednesday, several social media posts show. Make Your Home Among Strangers chronicles the struggles of a young Latina student. The daughter of a Cuban immigrant, she gets into an exclusive college, but as she is mostly surrounded by white students, the privileged world of the campus feels utterly foreign, as does her new awareness of herself as a minority, according to its online description. Okay, so point number one, just so we're clear, I have not read this book, so I can't make any sort of intelligent critique or criticism of its style, subtext, message, narrative, or anything else. I didn't read it. I won't be reading it either. Not as a political statement or anything like that, though. I just read the description and some of the glowing reviews produced by obvious media sycophants, and frankly, it sounds boring as fuck to me. It may or may not be a super great story. I have no idea. But if the people who loved it and are trying to sell it can't describe something that piques my interest, then I'm afraid I'm just not going to bother reading it. I have quite a long list of other things to read and not enough time to read them all as it is. However, this is the sort of reaction we expect from the campus left. I can't let it go unmentioned when it comes from the campus right instead. You're quickly becoming just as fragile and intolerant as the snowflakes you bitch about. Knock it off, dumbskulls. Dispute their claims. Debunk their proof. Argue with their narratives. Present alternatives to their fatalistic worldview. Hell, just point, laugh, and mock them for their stupidity like we do around here all the time, if you like. All perfectly acceptable ways to engage with these Fruit Loops. Disrupting their speeches and book burnings? No. Those are the tactics of people who know their ideas aren't good enough to convince others. Those are the tactics of authoritarians afraid they can't win the argument on merit. If you're using these tactics, you are becoming just another authoritarian asshole. So stop it. Let these morons spout all the utterly crazy shit they like. They do more damage to their cause than you ever could anyway. All you need to do is point it out. Skip the rest, Bob. That was all I really wanted to say on this one. Toxic time. Oregon Taco Bell customer who slashed man's throat sentenced to 7 years in prison, report says. A knife-wielding Maryland woman who slashed a man's throat at a Taco Bell in Oregon this past July after he told her to zip it for berating the staff was sentenced Thursday to 7 years in prison, according to a report. Kaylee Mason, 22, pleaded guilty in Clackamas County in September to second-degree assault in the knife attack that gave 48-year-old Jason whatever an 8-inch gash across his face and throat and required 100 stitches. On July 9th, whatever, said he walked into the Taco Bell in Sandy, about 30 miles east of Portland, and saw Mason clad in a blonde wig, yelling at the employees for taking too long. Apparently the management had already told her to leave, Jason said. As she continued to rant and rave, I told her to be quiet, told her to zip it. Mason left the restaurant, but returned moments later with a knife and attacked Jason, Detective Sam Craven told the Oregonian. Mason then sped off in a silver Kia Soul, nearly running over his wife in the process, Jason said. Police said they pulled her over with her boyfriend and 2 young children, ages 2 and 4, in the car, according to Clackamas County Prosecutor Matt Semrick, whatever. Craven said police found Mason's blonde wig in the boyfriend's pants. Mason was arrested and indicted on multiple criminal counts, including attempted murder, first-degree assault, and unlawful use of a weapon, according to records cited by the Oregonian. Mason's boyfriend, Philip Thomas, was arrested for tampering with physical evidence, but his case was later dismissed, the record showed. Prosecutors said Mason was on state supervision for an armed robbery of a pizza delivery man in Maryland. Her children, meanwhile, have been sent back to Maryland with a relative, investigators added. Whoa. There is a lot to unpack in this one, Bob. So many questions, I hardly know where to start. I guess we should start at the charges versus the conviction, huh? Charged with attempted murder, first-degree assault, and unlawful use of a weapon. Yet somehow convicted of just second-degree assault. That's one hell of a plea bargain there. Either she's got a really good lawyer, or these prosecutors suck. Especially when we throw in the little fact that she's already on parole for another violent crime in another state. So, it's not like she's a repeat offender or anything. But that's not the truly mind-boggling part. No. The really fucked up part here is the male privilege at play in the clearly patriarchal system. The boyfriend's case was just totally dropped. The man cutting the man a break. Go figure. And Jason here wasn't charged with anything? Are you frickin' kidding me? It says right there, plain as day, he attacked her. Exactly. Words are violence, Bob, so he literally assaulted her with syllables. And yet, no charges for him. Oh no, he gets off scot-free because male privilege. Disgusting. Just completely unfair to the oppressed whammon. Okay, let's wrap it up. Drag queen professor brings the nightclub to the classroom. That's not funny, Bob. It's freaking sad that our education system even allows this kind of stupid shit. Okay, but there better be a laugh in here somewhere. A professor is lecturing in drag at various universities in order to teach students about queer nightlife and to bring the nightclub to the classroom, with one event occurring Thursday night. Tufts Theater, Dance, and Performance Studies professor Kareem Kubchand, whatever, whose drag name is Lahore Vagistan. Lahore Vagistan. Now, there's a name that exudes intellectual prowess, doesn't it? I would totally take Professor Lahore seriously. That's it for this week. Remember the social justice mantra: women are victims, men are oppressors, and feminism is just about equality. I'll see you all next time.